Moodle currently have? Maybe I'll just move it up a little. So far everybody's saying over 100 courses. So your sites are much larger than what I've been dealing with. So just letting you know, the University of Nagasaki is a small Moodle install. We have about 30 courses, about 4 or 5 teachers, so not as much as most of you. So hopefully some of these tips will be helpful to you guys moving forward here. All right, so good. Most people are between 50 and 100, over 50 courses anyway, so that's much bigger. Okay. Hearing me? Let's see, are you guys still hearing me? Okay, thanks Dana. Thanks Nancy. Great. Thanks Paul and Stephen. Thank you very much. All right, so Shane, I don't know if I'm doing anything to block your sound. I wouldn't be doing that, would I? Oh, he's left. I guess he'll come back. All right, let me continue. Let me continue on. So now we know where everybody's at. Most people are running 1.9 in production, and most of you have sites with over 100 courses, so that's very good. Okay. Let me ask. I want to ask a couple other questions. Most of us are on 1.9, so why haven't you gone? Why haven't you gone to Moodle 2 yet? Just checking. I have a couple of answers here. Too busy for downtime, lots of customization, so we can't. Don't want to upgrade, no specific reasons. Could you guys answer that if you have a chance? I'd just like to see why people aren't going for it. Just too busy for downtime? Okay, all right. Looks like. Okay, yeah, the customizations are make things challenging. Okay, we're going to move soon. Andrea's going to move soon. Okay. All right. And I have another question to ask of you guys later, but let's get on with what I'm going to talk about a little bit, and then we'll come back to that. Okay, planning to move. Dana's going to move this summer. Okay, you're negotiating with the host, so Laura Lee's negotiating. All right, that's basic, normal stuff, I'd say. Anybody just scared of going to 2.x? The file picker stopped you, Nancy. Okay. Okay, I can understand that. I have a good deal of experience using the file picker, so I can talk about that a little bit later. Yeah, that's how I felt too, Andrea. I was scared, but once I did it, hey, I'm glad I did it, and I'm moving forward here. So let's talk. Let's see. There's two kinds of migration that I studied when I was doing this. The full site, which I called the shotgun approach. That means, you know, point your database and your point your software directory to the 1.9 database and the 1.9 data directory and just refresh the browser and see what happens. And then there's a more careful and specific way of doing it, a course by course method, where you choose the courses you want to bring over, and you take them from a 1.9 site and then you restore them into a 2.2 site. At first I had some customizations in mind that prevented me from doing the full site, but as things got better, I was a little bit early in the migration process. As things got better and Moodle HQ was fixing things, it became easier to experiment with the full site migration, and ultimately that's what the University of Nagasaki did. We did a full site migration. We didn't do a course by course. Okay, so let me tell you about my test environment. My 1.9 to version 2 ingredients. This is what I had. I had a production server with my 1.9 live site, and I didn't want to mess around with that at all. It wasn't the latest 1.9, and it was being used constantly, so I didn't want to mess around with it. So what I did was I acquired a testing server, and I built 2 new Moodle sites on there. I built a 1.9 clean installation from scratch and a 2.x clean installation. Now, I'm not sure how many of us in the audience are administrators and know about software development, but have any of you guys installed using the Git repository for Moodle? Anybody? Theresa says she's done it. Nope. Okay. Well, okay. All right. So most people are not. Most people are using the zip files and unzipping whenever they want to update the Moodle. They unzip over their current install and then run the update process. Okay. Well, if you check on Moodle.org, you can find how to install Moodle via the Git repository. And one of the benefits of installing 2.2, I'm going to talk about 2.2 today, using that repository is that because they are in development and they are fixing things weekly, it was helpful to have an easy way to update my Moodle installation. Now I think in 2.3 they're going to have a way to automatically update from the notifications page, but that wasn't in 2.2 or earlier versions. So I learned how to install using Git, and basically what you do is you run a command and it just downloads the source tree into your server. Yep, okay, thanks. That's exactly the way to do it. Thank you, Theresa. That's exactly what I read to do it. And the other thing that I had to do in my environment was I had to make sure that all the modifications and enhancements that I used in Moodle had a working version for both 1.9 and 2.x. Okay, and that caused me to do some auditing. And okay, hold on, I'll back up a second. Miriam, your question, CVS is I think that might have been the previous way that that's one way Moodle manages their source code, and that is an older version control system, which is also tried and true. I just used Git because it seemed the documentation was pretty clear. I don't know if Moodle still supports CVS or they're asking you to move to Git or not. I haven't checked into that. So is it still working? Are you still able to update using the CVS? That'd be a question for you. If you are, then okay, well, good. Then you don't have to worry then. That's fine. Okay. But the benefit of that, as I said, is you have a latest version of the software. Moodle HQ was focused on making sure that the migrations could happen because obviously they want people to migrate, and they fixed problems really quickly, especially when I was researching this. This was about 6 months ago that I did all my work. Okay, and I'll go back to point 5 here, the required mods and enhancements. You needed a working version in 1.9 and 2x because if you were doing course by course, you needed to be able to make sure that the data would be backed up properly. Okay, without preparing the data properly in a 1.9 backup, 2.x restore would not function properly because it wouldn't have the data in the form it expected. Okay. So I mentioned that I did an audit of all the mods I had, and I had some core mods that I couldn't live without, and I had some mods that I tried and said, oh, these are fun, but I don't really need them. So once I had done that audit, in my clean installation directories, I made sure I only had those mods with which I could not live without. And I'll show you some of those. I did have to do some software development. Actually, Justin Hunt he's in the talk today. He's a friend of mine. We work together on different projects. We're working together on the Poodle project, which he'll be presenting later on this weekend. But he helped me with some of the coding changes I had to make for some of the mods that I needed. So you need to do a kind of audit of the enhancements you have, and see if you can pare down the mods to the least common denominator sort of method, where you only take the ones that you need and leave the ones that you don't need behind. And of course, it's nerve-wracking to do this kind of update, especially if you have data. So be patient, and it's okay that I wish you a healthy dose of luck in your migration. But be methodical in this process and things go much smoother. I was very methodical in the way I did it, and things went a lot smoother than I thought they would. So that's something to remember. Is just, if you follow a process and you step through it, things should work. They've done a good job with the migration code. Okay, let me go on. I have a small Moodle installation. We didn't have a very powerful server, but I did have to, in my research, I did have to make sure that PHP settings were up to the task. I had to make sure that scripts didn't time out. So I enhanced my php.ini file. That's something, if you're familiar with it, you need to make sure that the values in those files are adequate for long processing. Okay? Everybody all right with that? I'm going to keep going. All right, good. Now the migration itself runs in the browser. So I tested with a few browsers. I'm kind of a fan of Google Chrome just because it seems to load quicker, and I just like things to run faster. But I ran into a lot of trouble with it when I was practicing migrations. It kept getting an error 324 for a process that ran for a long time. I guess the browser itself decided things timed out without waiting for the server. What sort of values are reasonable for a 100-course site? That's a good question, Paul. And what I would do is your PHP INI values may be all right. It depends on how much power you have in a server, I would say. I'll just go back to that slide for a sec. It depends on what you have for a server. My server was kind of old because it was sort of being managed by myself, and I had to buy it myself and so on. But if you're working on a production level virtual host or some kind of heavy-duty Apache server, then maybe you won't have to make changes to those values. But testing will tell you that. Testing your migration will tell you that. If you get timeouts, then you need to increase the execution time for scripts and the memory limit if it hangs. Okay, so it's gonna be different for each site, Paul. That's what I'm trying to say. And only by experimenting will you know what the right value is. So I don't really want to say what I should. I don't really want to tell you what to put for a value. So I'd be worried that I tell you the wrong thing. Okay. Like I said, the browser, make sure it's a decent browser. Google might be all right now, but it wasn't when I was experimenting about 6 months ago. I haven't tested a long process with it recently, so I don't know if it's still good. But I used Firefox, and that was fine. I think Safari would probably be okay as well. And the latest version of IE, I didn't really use IE. I don't particularly trust that browser. Okay, Theresa says Chrome is good. I don't know if you have experience running a long process on Chrome. I don't know if you've tried that, Theresa, but if it's working good for you, that's good. Testing, once again, will teach you whether or not that browser is the one you want to use for a migration. Okay? All right, let me talk about the directory layouts. It's a little bit administrative talk here, but I suppose if you're using any kind of server, you'd have this sort of planning in mind. I use a Linux server. I don't know. Okay, Theresa said upgrade was done via command line. Okay, I did not experiment with that. This is all browser-based upgrade that I did. Hopefully I'm gonna demonstrate that to you very shortly here. I actually have one ready to go. Okay, the way I set it up, I had software directories that were parallel. We've had a word about Git and Mercurial and those source code controls, CVS. We've talked about that. And I had parallel data directories, and I was able to copy data directories. I had enough disk space to do that kind of thing. So I could experiment and practice on my on copies of my production data. That's how I did it. This is kind of how I had it set up. So the Moodle data directory is on the bottom here, the software directory is up top. I copied my 1.9 MySQL database to a new database. I created the database with PHP myadmin, but left it empty and used the command line for actual copying because even my small 30-course site had too much data for PHP myadmin to handle a copy. So I put the commands that I used here for your convenience if you want to practice on your own test server. Here's what I used. Okay, just dump the database from 1.9 into a file called 1.9 db, and then log in to MySQL again and pass in the 1.9 database into my new 2.2 test database. Okay, so that's how I copied the database, and then I duplicated the data directory. 1.9 data was the production data site. In the case of my testing, this was a safe, sterilized production data copy, so that I didn't have to mess around with my real production data. That was in a different location. And then there was I made a copy of it into a Moodle 2.2. Here's the commands I used. I made sure to preserve the ownership. That's 2 dashes there. It's not showing up as 2 dashes, but that's 2 dashes. The preserve ownership command makes sure that the Apache is still the owner of that data. If you copy it as root, then it would change the permission to root, and you might get an error when you try to test your migration. Okay, and once again, make sure you have enough disk space. I mean, that's pretty standard administrative stuff. I was lucky my test server had piles of space and only 4 teachers using it. Okay, and then just for testing, I had two sites. So I had a 1.9 and a 2.2 in my test area, and I could keep the 2.2 URL. There it is. I could keep that, and just change the database name in the data directory to whatever I was using for my test, and away I would go. You know, once you edit the config.php, go to a browser, refresh the window, and then Moodle kicks off the migration. Okay. So let me see if I can show you a sample migration. I'll do one now. Is everybody still with me there? All right. Let's. Any questions before I do that? All right. Okay. Now, when I switch to desktop sharing, the chat window is a little bit smaller, hard to see the questions, but be patient. If you post one, I'll see it in a sec. Hang on now. I'm gonna stop sharing this window here, and I will click share my screen, desktop. Okay. So everybody see that desktop there? I hope that's viewing. Okay, good. Miriam says yes. Okay, good. All right, great. Okay, so this is my 1.9 test site, and I'll just show you that it's a working 1.9 test site. It's not a fake screen that you're looking at. For my testing, I just had a few of my courses here. There's only 6 courses in this site, so I don't want you to be sitting here for 2 hours waiting for 30 courses to migrate. But here's one of the courses, and here's something in the course. I don't know, I'll just show you. There's a video of something in here. So you can see I want to migrate this resource and all these other things that go with this, these quizzes. There's a, I'm just showing you, this is one of the mods that I really love, is drag and drop matching and ordering questions. I'm a big fan of them, as I like my students to put things in order. So that was one of the bits of code that I had to work on with my partner Justin. So it's showing you that these things work. And here I have a URL of a test 2.2 site, but this is not actually going to be the site that I migrate. I'm going to use this URL to migrate a test set of data. So let me switch to a okay, is there a question there? Or I wish I could make this Adobe Connect thing a little bigger. Hang on. Okay, all right. Thank you, Theresa. Thanks for helping them. Let me see. Make that small again. Okay, so I don't know if you can see this here, but this is a directory of Moodle data, and I have a bunch of test areas in here, and it's a little bit hard to see, but I created a directory called 2.2_iMoot, and wow, is blue a bad color to show or what? So just trust that I copied this from the 1.9 development directory here, and that is a copy of the 1.9 data, okay? And I'll show you the commands I used for MySQL dump, MySQL. Okay, so here's the commands I used for copying my data. First, I dumped data from 1.9 development into the iMoot file, and then I imported it into a new database that I created in PHP, my admin, using the same commands that I showed you in the PowerPoint there. Okay, so I've done that, and now I'm just going to edit my config.php file, and I'm going to change the database name to the Moodle 2.2 iMoot. Okay, and I'm going to change the development directory to 2.2 iMoot, which is a copy of 1.9's data directory. Okay, I'm going to save that, and then I just go back to my 2.2 test site here, and I reload the browser, and hopefully, if I did it right, it'll come up and start telling me I'm going to migrate from 1.9.18 to 2.2.3, and it says, gives you the old warning. It's going to do everything automatically. Once you do it, you can't go back. So you just click away. It's going to double check your environment, make sure that it's all right, and away you go. Okay. It's going to check all the existing plugins, which ones are going to be upgraded, which ones will be installed. There are some that are missing from the disk. Warns me about those, but those don't necessarily stop the migration from happening. There was some data in my database, but there was no plugin found for it. So that's a good thing to know, is that things that you are going to leave behind, Moodle will help you clean up later. So that's a good thing to remember. So I'm just going to click the upgrade button and get this thing started. And by my last timing, this took about 5 minutes at the most. So let me return to the presentation, just talk for a minute or answer a question or something. But basically it does a number of steps. This is, as you can see, the browser is still processing. It should go pretty quickly here. I think it took about 3 minutes. Let me get my Adobe Connect screen back. I'm going to stop sharing that just for a minute, and I will come back to that. You just have to trust me that it's going, and I haven't done anything to make it mysteriously finish. Yes, thank you, Theresa. Thank you for helping. This is my first ever digital online presentation. I'm actually, I feel like I'm a little clumsy here, but okay. All right. All right, now just letting that, yes, it's very hard to talk to myself, but I seem to do it pretty well when nobody else is listening. All right, I'm going to keep going. When it finishes, there are some things that you have to clean up. In my case, because my Moodle URL was m1.9.taltom.com, I had to use that famous admin tool to replace .php. I don't know if you guys are familiar with using that one. It says you're only really supposed to use it for changing your URL site-wide, but I confess I have used it to try and change data on a global scale inside my Moodles before in test environments. But anyway, you use this to change the URL from m1.9.taltom.com to m2.2. Yes, Paul, as I have as well. Yeah. Yes. Perfect. Right. Exactly. And then according to the warnings you receive in the Moodle notifications area, 2.2 makes use of, instead of my ISAM type tables, it uses INNODB tables, and you start getting nervous. Oh no, I have to change all my tables, but they luckily provided you a tool to do that. So I put the link in there. If you click on your, if you go to the admin section of your new install, it'll convert the tables automatically for you. All right, I'm just going to peek at my migration. It's still going along right now. I'll tell you where it's at. You just have to trust me. It's doing question types right now. I'll show you the output screen when it finishes so you can see all the things that pass by. Okay. And okay, and I'll go to this slide after, but one of the things to keep in mind is at the time I wrote this presentation, course by course migration did not support bringing over user data. So that was a big loss if you were keeping historical records of things. And in the end, that caused me to really focus my efforts back on a full site migration. I wanted to have the historical data in there for certain things. Sorry about that, Miriam. I put in an example domain. Yes, just put your site's domain. Mine would be m22.talltom.com. I'll show you that after in a sec. Here, let me switch back to my desktop. Okay, I'm switching back to my desktop. Okay, and you can see we have finished. Okay, now let me. I'm just rolling the browser up, so don't get a motion sickness or something. Here we go. So as you can see, it followed a bunch of processes. It it migrated all the question types. It did something with the book modification. I don't have any book things in my courses yet. I have yet to experiment with that. Okay, and it's you know, showing all the things that it's done. It's added all the new authorization plugins and all the things that Moodle 2 supports. It's really got a lot more functionality in there. Okay, so this thing just went all the way down here, and as you can see, it's probably useful to have a long timeout. And I'll just continue on. Okay, I just have to log back in there because I didn't stay logged in. Okay, and then you have these all these new settings that you have. They just give you a whole page of settings. You can go down each one of them and all the different things, you can check them out. Or if you've tested the migration about 150 times like I have, you just scooch to the bottom and say, okay, I can change these later. If I need them, I will. I'm going. Okay. There we go. And save. Okay. And as you can see, my site still, even though it's Moodle 2.2 in the URL, it's still calling itself version 1.9 because that's what the title of my test site was. And I copied the test data over. Okay, and as you can see, here's that warning about database tables. They're using the MyISAM database engine. You should use an ACID compliant engine with transaction support such as INNODB. So if you just go up and type in that URL that I talked about, INNODB, then it asks you if you want to convert all the tables. You click that. It says, please be patient and wait for this to complete. Luckily, my site is small, so it doesn't take that long to do. Okay. I think it's almost done there. Okay. Down the bottom and have a look. Still going, still going. All right, done. Okay, so that's done, and then the last thing I have to do is my replace to make sure the URL is the right URL. So I say m1.9.talltom.com and replace that with m22.talltom.com. Check the disclosure, the warning. What happens if I don't check it? It doesn't work. Okay, and I go back to my home page here now that it's done. Okay, and here I have my my courses in a row. Okay, so if I take a look at one of the courses just to show you that things did migrate, things do look different. You know, the theming in the CSS is different, so things don't look quite the same. You have to do, even after you've done a successful data migration, the look and feel of